Hello and welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery Podcast. And in true Jackie style, this week I've gone totally rogue. I'm not going to be presenting to you today the podcast I said I would at the end of last week's episode, because Dave and I, whilst we were preparing for our Living the Property Dream event, which is all about finding the freedom formula, which is our special 10-year anniversary event that we are running on the 9th of November, we just had a flurry of inspiration for ideas that we just felt we just wanted to talk about. So that's what's happening today. Jackie and Dave hijack the podcast schedule to talk about business strategy and whether it is a secret weapon or a stealthy saboteur. And our lessons about how brilliantly set up businesses does not necessarily equal financial freedom. So you're going to be joined by myself and Dave very shortly to bring all of that to life. So let's do this.
No, here we are on a boat again.
We're on a boat.
We just walked around the boat trying to find somewhere really cool and inspiring to record this, and there was nowhere. So we're in a very small cabin right now, very uninspiring.
We had a really great deck overlooking the Bay of Biscay.
Yep.
Biscay, but too windy. So here you go, the inspiring inside of a cabin on board Brittany Ferries. But today what we are going to talk about is inspiring, because we are currently planning for our 10-year anniversary event, Living the Property Dream, which I actually realised in hindsight I should have called Finding the Freedom Formula, because it's all about the biggest lessons that we've had over the last 10 years for how to create financial freedom, time freedom, realising that those actually weren't freedom, and figuring out what real freedom actually is. So we've been planning and putting together all the plans for this event, and we were kind of talking about what our most surprising one is, because we've got 12 key lessons from the last 10 years. And the most surprising one for us is the angle for what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, so we thought of all of them. We were looking at them in hindsight, saying what would we have not realised at all? What has been at the time would have been a complete drop the mic, complete bombshell shock at the time, and would have been absolutely no way, dude. Right? And we've decided on one. Do you want to introduce it?
I'm going to introduce it. So it is that brilliantly set up businesses do not equal financial freedom. Podcast done.
Sorted. Brilliantly set up businesses. And this is particularly through the lens of having a great business plan, having a great business strategy, enacting a great business strategy as well, and following a great, putting all that effort into following a great plan. And I think this particularly comes from the angle of you, Jackie, are known as the property strategist. And that's because our whole background has been, where we started making real shifts in our achievements was when we started doing business strategy. And we started to bring business strategy into the property sphere. And we started getting proper business mentors rather than just going and learning from property people. We got business mentors so we could actually set things up properly. And so we spent the first 3-4 years with this kind of being our driving force. Yeah,
well, I guess the first 3-4 years of setting up property strategy, that was the driving force behind it. I guess before that, you're right, there was no business strategy whatsoever.
True.
Actually, I would say arguably before we did any property training, there was kind of more of a plan than there subsequently ended up being. Then we actually started doing property training. Then that was the opposite of business strategy, because it was just do everything. Don't just, diversify, do as many different strategies as you possibly can to be really diversified and basically burn yourselves out and never go on holiday. And then I was like, this is a bit shit. And then we found strategy, and it was the best thing since sliced bread, because no one in property was talking about it. And that shift from having no clear vision that we were holding ourselves to, and just grabbing onto any opportunity that came along, to actually going, no, what do we want and how are we going to make that happen, and putting everything through that lens. That was, you're right, that was a massive shift for us. And it was gosh, this is what the property industry has been missing, and we went off on a massive mission to go and bring that into the industry, and it was great. And I'm really glad that we have done that, because obviously it is really important, but it's very important how you actually do it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you've basically done your normal here, and you've gone on your standard routes and rants, as it were.
Noted.
So, what I mean by that is, you've covered the surface area, and the surface area is kind of, we needed to work out what our end goal was and put a plan in place to achieve it. But can you give a tiny bit more this time? Because in theory, back then, we had this belief, and it really worked to a degree. It really worked very well to a degree. The belief that if you continuously craft your business strategy with an end goal in mind, and you continually tweak and refine it, so you're regularly going back to it, and you follow through and take action on it, we had this belief that that's all it would take. And the belief was based on the fact that we did see changes in our life and in our business. It was definitely making improvements, and I would say 80%, 100%, 80% founded in truth, that belief. And from what we experienced, it helped us achieve a lot, but it didn't help us achieve financial freedom. In theory, we were stuck at a point for quite a while where we weren't financially free. So can you just give us a bit more about what is that business plan? Like, how does that work?
So maybe we actually need to clarify the way we're saying this, because I think you can get financially free from it, but it's slow.
Yes.
Because I disagree with you that we weren't financially free following those methods.
Right, just it took a long time.
It just was slow, and we could have been financially freer quicker.
Okay.
So that maybe that we need to just clarify that that kind of like statement, that it is that a great business, great businesses that are structured really well with a great business strategy, doesn't equal financial freedom, or if it doesn't necessarily it doesn't take the quickest route to financial freedom.
Yeah, but I would go one more push against you on this.
Okay.
I think it doesn't mean financial freedom unless you make sure it means financial freedom. Because you could have an amazing business plan with an incredibly set up business, and you're following it all through, and you're taking all the actions, and you're constantly refining it and tweaking it, and you keep evolving it and growing your business and growing your business and growing business. But if you don't take the right actions within that, and you don't do it in the right way, you could keep growing a business that doesn't give you financial freedom.
Yes, that is true.
So that means it isn't the business plan that gets you financial freedom. The business plan is the key tool that will allow you to get there quickly if done in the right way.
Yes.
But we weren't doing it in the right way, not for the first period, and that's because no one was telling us how to do it.
Okay,
that's why I want the how.
Yes, okay.
So we need to know where we started. What was the original how, so we can,
yes,
cover the later how.
So your question is, what was the first how?
Yeah, what were we doing? How was that business plan working?
So our first way of business planning that we learned was to have a clear vision that you were wanting to aim towards, and then making a business plan across 5 key... What are you laughing at?
No, it's brilliant. No, this carry on.
Welcome to our living room. 5 key areas of strategy, which were marketing, sales, operations, finance, and team. And then using that to create a long-term strategy, a medium-term strategy, and a short-term strategy.
Yeah.
That was how we started. Shall I say how it evolved?
I guess that did also incorporate a lot of other clarification aspects, like our USP and our service, our market,
opportunity.
A lot of the business plan concept was clarification of really what you were doing. That's where our focus point came from. Clarification of exactly what you were doing, who you were, what your business did, what it stood for, and who it was serving exactly, so that you could better market yourself, and so you were more focused in everything you did. And then that regular adjustment of the plan to make sure it kept on. It was always heading towards the vision.
Yes, I guess the problem was the way that we were using it. We went through a process to realise that actually it all hinged on not doing too many goddamn property strategies.
Yeah.
That actually every property strategy was a new business plan. There was a different opportunity, a different service, a different market space, whatever, and then basically adjusting those terminologies to be more relevant to property investment companies. But yes, that it is really important, that aspect of the plan that then ultimately feeds into what I was discussing before in terms of marketing, sales, operations, finance and team.
Yes.
We then subsequently, having used it a lot, came to the realisation that actually it would be better for property investment companies to be focused on deals, investors, rather than marketing and sales. Marketing and sales are actually within those. And then rather than operations, we changed it to delivery, just to make it sure it's clear that it's the delivery of what you've promised to investors and what you have purchased in the deal side, and then financial management and team. So that's what we were doing, and it was all really equally weighted across deals, investors, delivery, financial management and team.
Well, I think this was one of the big, the pivotal point of that shift from our old way to what we realised was a better way, was around the realisation, that one moment of realisation where we said, my God, you cannot work on all of these at the same time. And we had been.
We
just cannot.
We were trying so hard.
We put so much effort into crafting and setting up the business well. And that was set up, and we were making good plans and setting up the right things. And we were like, okay, well, we need to have a good plan for our team, and we need to have a good team map so we know where we're heading, so we're hiring the right people at the right time, and we need to have all of our systems sorted, and we need to be doing this, need to be doing that. It was like...
make as much time as possible, time block as much time as possible each week to work on strategy, to make sure you've got a good strategy in all these areas, and you're you're building the team, as you say, you're looking at your management accounts, you're doing all of these.
Yeah, whilst also doing what everyone else does, which is buy the properties, find the investors, and just grow the business. And those things where you're growing the business are the part that everyone else is doing, but by having these extra strategical plans and all these other actions you're taking, what we found was we were growing it in a more structured, better way that had more foundations, and it was brilliant.
And it definitely got us to go on holiday more quickly.
Definitely did. But
it was not the easy way.
Not the easiest way.
Not the easiest way. And so the realisation for us in hindsight was that we were giving too much equal weighting across the different areas of strategy within the business. And they're not equally weighted. They're at different phases, there are different weightings. And if you want to move through things as quickly as possible, this was the killer learning. And I guess this has been a blessing for us in the sense that we mentor other businesses, so we've been in the privileged position to pass on our learnings but make our learnings better, because you see how people respond to them and be like, how could they have got a better result? And then I think it was probably, if we hadn't been doing it in that way, that realisation would not have become quite so crystal clear for me, because I think we managed to get quite a good degree of success even with that, somehow, between the two of us. Good work ethic, very good at making stuff happen and not getting distracted. But then when we were passing those lessons on and just seeing how things weren't happening quick enough for other people and trying to make it work better, that for me is where it was damn, this is... Stop making the bloody business plan and start just doing the things that actually matter. And actually it's not many things that matter at the various different points, just do those. I'm getting to a rant again.
So I would like to know from you just a couple of examples. We've talked about the fact that we were kind of pushing all fronts at the same time, and we had a way of doing that ourselves, and it meant that we were growing a business that was growing really well, had fantastic foundations, stability, very robust, and it meant that we were also building in the aspects of financial freedom, the aspects of time freedom. That's where we really pushed for the holiday every 6 weeks concept, but it wasn't necessarily getting us there by the way we were doing it, and we were teaching other people. So what was, for example, the first realisation for you in terms of what someone had to stop doing and what they should be doing instead?
Stop systemising and start hustling for the right deals and the right investors.
Love it. Stop systemising. And that's from people who loves to systemise.
I love a system. I love to be organised. And that's why I love business planning really spoke to me, right? Because I'm oh my gosh, just make a lovely organised plan and all will be well. And it does basically cut a load of chaff when you've got a good business plan, because you know what you're not doing, so that helps. But then it also puts a load of other stuff on your list that probably wasn't even on your list before, for example, systemize my business. And I think the problem is, if you are if you are focusing on systemizing your business, you're sitting down writing standard operating procedures, documenting things, making it all like, you know, really neat and organized. Every hour that you are doing that, you are not out there meeting with potential vendors or meeting with agents or, you know, networking and finding new potential partners. And those are the things that are going to grow the business, and by growing the business, that is what is going to increase the bottom line, and ergo, is that the word?
I think
financial freedom.
And that's actually become one of our core tenes, one of our core principles.
All these words are coming out.
Ergo,
tene.
One of our core principles of how we operate with our clients, right, with our mentees, is to say that they must, or not must, if they follow our process, it means they grow in a systemized way, but they do not have to systemize. So don't stop building those procedures and systems. Just do things in a systemized way that is replicable, and the systemization generally comes in for us, especially with our clients and mentees, that we just basically say, go and do what you've been doing, you know, for the last 3 months, and if you need to do it in a way that someone else can then follow it as a system, because you're doing it the same every time, just press record on the computer, right? Just press record, and then record yourself doing it. Maybe talk about it as you're doing it, but you still have to do it anyway. So whatever, sourcing your properties or analysing your deal, whatever it might be, just you do it the same every time. So therefore, record it, save it somewhere, and then when you hire someone, that's it. Just show them the recording. Done. You've got your process. It's recorded, and there's no effort in that because you're actually just recording something you're already doing. And that, if your business is growing in a systemized way, therefore you can do that. You can do that.
Exactly. So that was one example. Systemizing your business. I feel I think for me the difference is between the operational stuff that is just gonna get done and the really high value income generating tasks that you are out of your comfort zone doing, but you have to do if you want to grow your business. Like, your accounts are gonna get filed. Stop worrying about it and putting it on your biggest priorities each week. The refurb is gonna happen. Like, you're gonna make sure the builder's got what they need, and that's just like, it's just gonna happen. But what's not gonna happen is that you're gonna analyze and offer and follow up on deals. You're not going to go out networking and follow up potential investors and move that conversation forwards and get heads of terms signed. You're not going to do that.
Unless you prioritize it, right? That's the key.
And that's what this is all about, basically. A business plan is only worth it if it's a prioritized plan, where most stuff isn't actually important, and only it's the 80-20 principle of like the 20% that is going to make the 80%, and it's not the stuff that you are mostly going to do if your business plan is laid out how it normally is.
Yeah. So you're in that case, you're talking about the business growth tasks being prioritized, and the business operational tasks
just happening.
You know they're going to happen. You don't have to put them on the list. You can put them on the list.
Put them on the list, but it's not like the golden ticket list. I'm going to change my black. So like, for example, every single week we do it ourselves, and I also get my team to do it, and we also get mentees to do it as well. What are your 3 to 5, I want to now call them golden ticket priorities for that week? I don't want to see that I'm going to get that refurb done. I don't want to see that I'm going to get that refinance done. I want to see, what am I going to do to get the next deal secured? What am I going to do to get the next finance raised? Like, those are the things that are the golden ticket items that if you are still trying to get to financial freedom, those things have to happen. So prioritizing the things that are the golden ticket items, and then taking your most precious bandwidth time in your day and your week to work on those. So if you have the most mental resilience at the start of your day, you start your day with those things, and then after that you come to chasing the refinance or calling the builder back. Like, those things have to come first. I'm trying not to rant.
So what about, I think that one's clear, what about if someone comes to you and says something like, and I know you've heard this a lot of times, okay, I just need to get a business strategy sorted, and then I'll be able to grow.
Lies.
Then I'll be able to get going, whatever.
No.
Then I'll be able to something. So
No.
what do you say to that?
So what I say to that is, it always comes back to the same starting point of, you just need to know what it is that you're focusing on. Like, there's a few core elements that you need to know to be able to get started, but you don't need a whole plan. Not even get started. Like, you could already be doing property, but it's a bit haphazard. You want to be able to do it faster. You need to know what your property strategy is, what we'd call your business model. You need to make sure that you know how that model is going to work with investors, and then you need to go out and start sourcing deals, and looking for investors.
Yep.
Like, as long as you are within that kind of camp with focus on those areas, it's damn obvious what you got to do. Yeah. Look for investors and look for deals, but look for the investors and deals that we have selected that fit within your business model, that make sense for what you're trying to do. Like, those are the things that matter.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
No, that does. I'm going to take it one step further now. I'm going to say, we've talked at the beginning about the balance across, for example, the 5 key areas of strategy, the marketing, sales, operations, finance, and team. Mm-hmm. For the person you've just talked about,
yep.
Like, how do they balance those 5 things? What would you say to someone who is saying, well, great, I'm going to focus in on my marketing and my sales, finding my investors and finding my deals, but what do I do about the rest? When do I get working on it? So when do they get working on it?
After you've done the things that are the marketing and sales tasks.
What if there's never a time for that?
There is time for that.
That's going to bring us back onto another of our points. You've basically plastered over with another one of our biggest lessons learned.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Come back to that. There is time for that. So then that comes onto a different problem then, right? So it's how you're managing your time.
Yeah.
So there is time for it, but it's about how much time you give to it, and more importantly, what you put the time in first. Okay,
so let's do it this way. So the concept of rocks, in terms of like your main priorities, like what are your quarterly priorities is another way you can say this. What are the big things that you need to get done this quarter to really move your business forwards? Those are your rocks. The big so if you've got a jar and you've got some rocks and some stones and some pebbles and some sand, and you just shove it all in haphazardly, it doesn't all fit. But if you have the rocks, which are your biggest priorities, and you put them in first, and then afterwards you put in the
pebbles,
I've forgotten my rock terminology, my pebbles in next, and then afterwards you put in the sand, it all fits. So this is what I'm trying to get at with my slightly rantingness today, is do the most important priorities first, because getting the refurb done and getting the refinance done are like pebbles or sand. They're not the big things that are going to drive the business forward. And if you haven't got enough cash flow coming in yet, you've got to make sure you're driving those actions, otherwise you're never going to get out of the place that you're in. So that is my answer to your question.
And then
maybe you answer it too, because I'm like, we are very different personality types in terms of how we approach things.
Yeah.
So what would be your answer to that?
What comes first?
Like, how do you fit it all in? Like, if it's about, all this operational stuff has got to happen, but that operational stuff is not growing the business, like, how do you deal with that? How do you make sure that the important stuff gets done?
Well, I think then we get on to, like I say, a slightly different point, which is time management. And the time management for me, it comes back to tools. You've got to put some time and effort into learning good time management tools. But I feel it takes us off scope. So
I have one final point for you, because I actually have a very clear memory of a big shift that you made.
Yes.
After you read Eat That Frog.
Yes.
And I think you read. Do you remember reading that?
Yeah.
And what was your key takeaway from that book?
Don't know. Eat That Frog.
He's going through the filing system.
No, I can't remember my key takeaway.
So what I
years ago
remember you taking away from that was, suddenly you were like, I have to prioritise the money actions.
Okay, yes.
Like, if there's something that's about agreeing a deal or agreeing finance, I must prioritise that above all else.
Yes.
And that for me was, I think, that shift for you of you always, you do a lot of operational stuff, but the stuff that drives the business forward never doesn't get done.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So I did shift. I did shift after that book. Right, Eat That Frog. Good book, everyone. I'm glad Jackie's brought that one up.
Jackie, very good memory, that one.
There were 2 good books actually around that time. Same time, the other book I read was called Go for No. I think Go for No and Eat That Frog are perfect mini little books, lovely little easy reads or listens that are perfect especially early days business principles of just how you should be acting and using your time. And Eat That Frog, you're right, I just said, my God, I just need to get on with the one. Anything that makes me money, that's going to get me to the next bit of money, has to be prioritised and has to be done first in my day. That's it, first in the day, before I hit my to-do list. Because otherwise, eating the frog, the whole concept is that the task is not something you want to do. It's not necessarily something you're going to enjoy doing. It's not something you're going to feel comfortable doing. And what happens in that scenario is you will self-sabotage. You will find some reason, some excuse not to get round to it. You'll try and make a cup of tea first, and then you're going, oh, I'll just quickly do this one job first. I'll just check my emails first. Oh, do you know what? I've just got this thing. Oh no, I've answered the phone.
Oh, actually, it's really important on my business plan that I've got to make sure I've got a good system in place for this. I better write that system up first.
And then you get the thing up, and you're like, oh, it's a deal analysis. Oh, I'll just tweak the deal analyzer first. I know an upgrade I need to do to it. That's what I do. And you just end up procrastinating on the task. Eat That Frog taught me never procrastinate on the things that are most important for the business. But yeah, so I would bring this back to strategy again, the business plan, a brilliantly set up business. That's where we started. So I think a brilliantly set up business does have something in finance. It does have a financial management strategy in place. It has something that you're doing. And it does have something in your plans for who you're going to hire next. And it does have something in your operational systems. It's just very small at first.
And it's a bit messy.
Right?
And that's I'm not sure if we've done an episode on it yet, but we will. Like, just this concept that just enough to be good enough.
Yeah, because we've got finite time.
Yes.
We're so busy in business. It's just like you've only got this tiny amount of time. There's always too much on the to-do list. So you have to be super clear with what you're spending your time on. So on everything that is like, it's okay if it's chaotic. It's okay if it's messy. It's okay if your accounts are right at the deadline, if your accountant's getting irritated at you because you're late giving them the stuff, because actually that is so unimportant compared to going out and frickin' viewing some properties and putting in some offers. It's just so not necessary. And now I'm ranting.
But then I think it's this is not permission, those of you who are naturally more chaotic, to just do whatever the hell. You've still got to do the chaos within a kind of a structure that stops it just completely consuming you, because there is so much. Even just building one business, there is so much. And we've ended up building a property company and also a mentoring training company as well, plus a finance company. Do not recommend this. It's like the property company is enough, and so therefore you've got to kind of keep it enough within a structure that you don't completely just create yourself another job that you can't get out of. And if you do it for too long, like you do see some people who've been in business for a while and haven't had that structure, and they're so stuck in it. Like it's just chaos. It's years of chaos, and it is so hard to get out of it because you kind of get used to it. So therefore the way to just reduce the scope is to be like, I am building ideally one, maybe maximum 2 businesses. This is what they are and this is what they do.
And that's the business planning part, right?
Yes, that's the business planning part.
That's the power.
Yes.
The business planning.
And then forget about everything else. Like, do not let anything else that is not within what you've chosen to do remotely come into even your head. Like, that is not okay. Like, it must come towards your head. So you're doing HMOs and an opportunity to do serviced accommodation comes along. It's like you want to have a force field shield where serviced accommodation does not even get into the field. It like pings straight off, because even if it touches your headspace, you're just thinking about it, pondering on it, wondering, dreaming. Game over's a bit harsh, but you've lost a life basically. And
you've just lost time. You lost time and focus.
You've lost headspace. Like, the headspace is just as important as the time, because the headspace is where we fill it with problem solving and creative solutions for the business that we're building. The minute some other ideas come in, they take that. It's like having too many tabs open in your computer. It just slows everything down, and there's enough stuff to do already.
I think that brings me back to where I wanted to pull you back to, which is the premise of this lesson was to do with reaching financial freedom. And obviously we can see that it actually impacts everything, but really it slows you down.
because you can actually do this. You can push every front, and you can do it. You can do a little bit every day on everything, but it's just really slow. So why is this impacting your financial freedom?
Because financial freedom is there enough money coming in every month for me to have enough money to be good? And if you've not got the business to a certain size, having done enough deals, there won't be enough money coming in. So it hasn't even reached objective number 1. Is that too simplistic an answer?
I think there's another aspect to it as well.
So it was a loaded question.
No, it wasn't actually. No, I realised it while you were talking. No, I think you've got that side of it, but then you've also got, if you haven't, you might have this perfectly crafted business plan that is pushing everything forwards. The problem as you push everything forwards is that every business is a money eater. Like, business is just a money eater. If you want it to be set up perfectly, it will eat all your money, and that's why so many massive businesses, we've just had a horrendous experience with O2 this last month, even massive successful businesses such as O2, that they are crap at certain things, because otherwise, if they wanted to be brilliant at everything, they'd have no money, there'd be no profit.
And ironically, I'm still with them.
Yeah.
So they have done a terrible job, but I'm still giving them my money, and therefore still helping their bottom line. So it's not, I'm annoyed, but I'm still there. So they're still doing the one thing that I really need them to do, which is give me a good phone line.
Yeah. So it's so rare to see even the best businesses, to see them in a state where they're providing perfect service and perfect everything, and
for a great price.
For a price that people are willing to pay. And it's all excellent across the board, because actually the business just eats money, and every aspect of it needs to be assessed in such a way that you're like, is that really necessary right now? Is that really necessary? Because if you do the slow road, if you do the business plan, you push every single aspect,
make it all perfect,
a good system, it means you end up spending not just time, but you actually end up spending money on it, because in order for it to be really great, you need a great system. That means you're probably going to need someone to help you with that system. You're probably going to have to pay for some sort of software, and then actually you're very quickly going to say, I need to hire someone. So you've actually just spent a load of time and money on it, and you slowly build up these great foundations, brilliantly set up, and there's no money left over at the end of the month. So financially, you're still no better off. And
it's a brilliant business. People will probably love you, but if you're not getting rewarded financially, it's not going to last very long.
You'll probably sleep well at night, and you actually might be.
No, you won't, because you'll be stressed about your finances.
Yeah, stressed about paying everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big learning for us, is that we were, one of the aspects we were doing, for example, was hiring people early. It's a great business premise. Don't hire too late, because then you have to hire fast, and it's bad, and then it's stressful. This concept was in our minds, a bit like diversification is often in people's mind. I must diversify, so I'll do a few more different strategies. Well, that sometimes it's relevant and sometimes it's not. And if you hire too soon all the time, you always end up ahead of the curve. You always end up paying away all the spare cash flow to the next hire, and you never have any money left over for yourself, so you never end up financially free.
It's true. And I think the difference is, and maybe again we're stepping on the toes of another lesson, but it's hiring. You hire too early because you want to be perfect, because you want to have a great, however we put it, a brilliantly set up business or a great business plan. So you want to hire early so the system's in place so you can be all perfect about it. But actually, it's not about hiring early. It is about starting the hiring process early. Like,
key difference.
Very key difference. Like, it takes time to find the right people, and you do not want to hire average people. Like, you want brilliant people. It's not worth it. So you want to hire brilliant people. To find brilliant people takes time. You've also got to assess them. Like, a brilliant person for one company might not be great for us. Like, there's different values. So you want to take your time, find the right people, take the time of it interviewing, really assess them, because also you don't want to hire the wrong person because you waste time onboarding. Start the hiring process, and then just time it right, that when the cash flow from that next 3 deals comes through, that person is there in the wings that you've been talking to for a while, and line it up. That's the difference. So bringing this finally back to financial freedom.
Yeah, the financial freedom point.
It is, like, business planning is really important, but it's got to be done in a way that's really prioritised towards financial freedom. And there's lots of other lessons that hook into this, but ultimately it's very easy to be distracted by having a glorious business plan that you are equally prioritising all the different areas of your business to make sure it's all amazing, and that is it's not a cul-de-sac, but it's the slow lane, and actually taking your business plan and going, what are the things that are really gonna push the needle, drive the business forwards, and just focus on them. And it doesn't have to be all a beautifully written down plan with all these different areas figured out. Just figure out the areas that are really going to make the biggest difference to the business and focus on them. And if you can do that, that is the quickest, that's the fast lane, that's the speeding lane towards financial freedom.
Brings us back to the 80-20 principle again, doesn't it? Because actually I wouldn't say, and I don't think either of us would say, don't bother spending any time on a business plan, because I do think that if it is a nice, spending a day or so on a business plan is worth it, right? And then kind of working from it. But the 80-20 principle is, you're basically saying, make sure you don't spend much time on it and you prioritize within it the things that are going to make the most difference, and just focusing on them, the 20% of that business plan that's going to move you forwards. And then if you do spend time on the rest of the business plan, it's got to be prioritized properly.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our banter on that episode. Dave and I really enjoyed recording it. Now, what we were talking about on this episode is just one of the areas that we're going to be going through on our Living the Property Dream event, which is all about finding the freedom formula. What are the key areas that you've got to have nailed in your property business in order to create time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, and also emotional freedom. So this is a special 10-year anniversary event where we're going through the 12 biggest lessons that we've had to learn and implement in our business to make that all a reality. And it's how you can leverage those lessons to implement the same in your business. So it's Thursday the 9th of November, 9 till 6 p.m. In Westminster in London. We've been actually blown away by the response to booking tickets for this event, so we haven't got many tickets remaining. But if you're interested to come and join us, you can head over to our website, which is property-strategy.com/LPD for Living the Property Dream. And so next week, I don't think I'm planning to hijack the schedule again, so we will be back to our planned schedule where Dom and Dave are going to be talking about creativity and peak productivity. So you'll want to join us again then. Until then, have a great week ahead.